Welcome to Channelizer, and more importantly, welcome to Chat with Channelizer, our series of webinars where we talk to channel experts and help share some of their expertise and insights. There are more webinars saved on Channelizer, which is free to join, and to access these webinars, you just need to go to channelizer.com. So today we're talking to Julian Lee, who's been CEO and president of Technoplanet for the past 25 years and has been in the IT industry since 1984.
It was me, Julian, but not quite. Pioneered the first North American IT distributor to expand across Europe in 1987, and his company is primarily in the business of helping vendors develop their channel partners, and his latest mission is to help global IT channel become bigger, better, stronger. And now he's bringing that to the UK. So over the years, he's worked closely with a lot of vendors, thousands of VARs and MSPs, and that network is growing on a daily basis. As you'll see through the interview, Julian is passionate about helping the next generation of IT companies keep their channels strong in the years to come. So firstly, with your experience in the channel, where do you see the dangers in the channel that is putting these VARs and MSP at risk right now? Over to you, Julian.
Well, thank you. Yeah, well, the first thing I would say is that their ability to transition their business, they're a little bit slow on that lever to accelerate in that transition. And I think that's their number one risk factor. If there was such a thing as 1 through 10, that would be a 10, 9 or 10 risk factor. And I think if they don't transition this business, and I think the word transition has been overused quite a bit, because the reason why they need to transition their business is because their customers' buying journey has changed. So it's not because it's let's transition our business for fun. It's because the way their customers are buying has changed. Now, I put a little caveat there, in that the customer buying journey that's changed is the more proactive end customers. There's a lot of old school customers still like doing business the same old school way. So for as long as those people exist, the traditional way of doing things remains status quo. That said, that trend is in a down, and the trend where the new buying journey is increasing is on the up. So eventually there's going to be a tipping point when there'll simply be more customers on the new buying journey as opposed to the old ways. And this, when the channel meets this pivot, this is when the risk will become real in terms of results. So that's the ability for them to transition. So either you wait until you're at that point when desperation hits the meter, or you start doing steps today to plan for when that that message comes. Interestingly enough, as the hurricanes are going on right now in the US, you can probably put a very nice analogy. You can either prepare for the hurricane before it hits, or do whatever you can do after the hurricane hits. So I'm going to bet on the people who prepare before, and so that's I think is where the channel is headed at some point. And
that's
it's
interesting.
because of that.
Yeah, no, that's great, because that brings me to our next question, which was what action can they take? So in terms of the hurricane, great analogy, what action can they take to swerve these risks? So from a VAR and MSP perspective, what would you give them a steer to take action to take?
Well, I think the first thing is to really understand what they don't know. You know, we all are great at knowing what we know, but we don't know what we don't know. And it sounds cliche, but at the end of the day, everyone is so busy running their businesses that they're not working on it, they're working in it. And when you're working in it, you really don't know where your weaknesses are. So I think the first step to mitigate these risks is to understand just how much at risk you are. If you're living in a glass house or you're close to the ocean, you have more risk than someone living upland in a higher ground. So this is the first thing to assess your risk. And so the first thing is to take this an assessment test to know your strengths and weaknesses. And we have one that we offer them for free. So that's the first step, I would say. And if you if they take that first step, human beings generally understand when they're faced with those types of dilemmas. They could start at least understanding, I'm weak here, I'm strong here, but what do I do as a human being? I fix my weaknesses and leverage my strengths, right? So
Yep.
to get to that first step is critical, because looking at the picture very big, it's almost it's a daunting challenge. Yeah. How do I fix my weaknesses? But what are my weaknesses? So I'd say
Indeed.
that's the first thing.
Okay, so understanding what they don't know, as you say. In terms of customer examples, can you give us any kind of examples that really helps us understand that? Anyone you've seen turn it around? Anyone you've seen go light bulb moment by understanding what they don't know?
You know, there are thousands of examples, but I'll give you a simple one. So there is a simple reseller, 5-person operation, not a big outfit. They have no more than about 60 clients, been in business for about 20 years, and they're making good money. And about 3 years ago, this is when I connected with that person. They're making great money, actually. You could say, 6 figures, taking home every year. The problem was not that they were not making money, that the person was literally had no time left for his personal life, and his health was deteriorating.
Yeah.
Because they were just working like crazy. So he arrived at a point where my life is not doing great for many reasons, and I won't get into what he told me, but and his health was sort of failing. So one day he said, that's enough, right? And he went to all of his clients and he figured out by himself what revenue he was getting from every single client, right? And then he figured out how much money he could charge that client every month as a recurring revenue to do some preventive IT maintenance, right? And then what he did, he went back to his team, to each customer, and he just simply said, look, I'm changing the way I'm doing business. I'm going to help, instead of doing break, fix, emergency, always crazy stuff all the time, what I'll do is I'm going to charge you a monthly fee in return for keeping you up and running 24/7, preventative maintenance. Stop you from going down in the first place. Now, most of his customers actually understood it. Not all accepted it. So he made another decision. All the ones who accepted it will become his best customers, and all the ones who didn't accept it, he was going to, quote unquote, fire them. And it's a harsh word, right? But basically what he did when he fired him, he told them, well, I won't be able to continue doing business with you in that way anymore. But if you'd like, I will try to find you another partner, solution provider, who could help you with that type of thing. And he explained to them that it might work, it might not work, but at least he won't leave them high and dry and move on. So he made this conscious decision to only work with people who were able to pay him a monthly predictable revenue fee, and literally fired the others. The threat of firing the customers was enough for him to convert more to his game. And then to speed up the story, he basically was able to put a dollar value based on all the break fix services he was doing with that client before, and a monthly fee per client. And I don't know what the exact numbers were, but he then went out to them and created a simple contract where the customer would give him that amount of money every month. And then he would then figure out how to fix the problem. So funny enough, he did not know how to prevent the problems from happening before he made this decision. Right. So he built it first, and then he had them come, right? So, and at that moment, he then worked really hard, because at the moment then, he knew exactly how much revenues he was going to get next month, the month after, and so on. So based upon that, he was able to figure out what tools, what services, whatever he needed to do that job. And he said the next 6 months, 8 months was very painful because he still made mistakes. But he came to the point where he had no choice. But because he had a predictable revenue, he didn't have to worry about revenue and finances. So he started outsourcing work, building tools, getting tools, buying tools to help him streamline the process. And he did this to the point, which is the most, I would guess, the end result. He was actually able to move to another country with his family and continue to run his business.
Wow. But the thing with that story, which is amazing, is that's a one-off. How do you help in terms of with the number of bars and the number of MSPs who come to you with a problem? Is there a set formula or a prescriptive process, or is each individual VAR and MSP a totally separate case? Do you have to build an entirely new journey for them, and a kind of one-to-one that works for them?
Well, there is basically they all have a common problem. So there's a common denominator amongst all of these partners. The vast majority actually can help themselves, which is the crazy part, because you can, if you really dug deep enough, you can help yourself. But we offer sort of a 4 or 5 step process, right? Step one is they need to take a business assessment. Otherwise, there's no way we can help you. Step 2, you need to marry up, if you will, with the right business coach to help you tackle the most urgent shortfalls in your business skills that you have. Of course, you can read a lot of information, you can Google a lot, you can find all the information in the world how to fix your business, but that takes forever. So a business coach can help you shortcut that process. The third step is you can't go to battle without the right tools, right? So you need to streamline your operation. Something as simple as, I would like to do recurring revenue, but is my accounting system able to do recurring revenue billing accurately? Yeah. And if you don't have this, then you really can't do recurring revenue. So the tools need to match your new business model. So you need to find the tools, and we have a resource called VAR Office Suite just for that. And then you need to collaborate with a group of like-minded people, and this is where the decision, it becomes personal. Some VARs and MSPs like to go it alone. That's great if you can, right. And some just can't. The vast majority actually cannot. And you can actually, there's a very interesting world out there about alcoholism. When you want to first get over your alcoholism, if you will, you have to first admit you're an alcoholic.
Yes.
Right. And everyone knows in that program that you need to have a buddy, right? Someone to contact when you do have a problem. Because once you are set in certain ways, it's very difficult to change human habits. They're comfort zone issues, right? They go right back to doing the same problem over and over. So when you work by yourself, you better be extremely disciplined to get that job done. Now, I don't know what the stats are for that, alcoholic type problem, but I'll bet you that it's single digits in terms of the ones who are successful by doing it alone. Yeah. And the vast majority needs the support of a group. So why would any other thing in the world be different? So working in a group makes sense. Now you can find your own peer group, and if you can locally, great, join a local peer group. But if you don't, we've got a VAR Mastermind group where we pair you together with 8 like-minded companies that don't compete together, but we also marry them up with 6 coaches that work with them over a period of 1 year with all sorts of collaboration activities monthly and so on to get the job done, basically. So it's sort of like getting some guidance, but support and help and so on. And the last step is really, it's really just getting together with other people who share the same common problem in various conferences and so on that we do. Or others do, and just asking questions. How are you doing it? How are you growing your business successfully? What are you doing differently? And then hopefully that sparks an idea of where you should move towards. But that
Indeed.
4-step, 5-step process is really where we figured out that's the journey that they need to take.
That's interesting. You mentioned there that you have some tools in terms of like billing tools, etc. Could you elaborate on that and just tell me a bit more about that, please?
Absolutely. So in the past, as we were connecting with these VARs and MSPs, they would simply ask us random questions like what billing system I should use, what service automation system, which RMM system I should use. And I use a lot of acronyms, but these are all tools that people use in the industry to streamline their businesses. And so we honestly had no clue. So what we did is we went out to our massive base of partners, VARs and MSPs, and we simply asked them a question. What are you using to run your business? And they were very happy to fill in the blanks. So then we took this list and built a short list based upon what the most common tools were being used. And then we started sending out this list, if you will, to these VARs and MSPs when they would ask us a question. So what PSA we should use? Well, here is a list of 8. What accounting system? Here's a list of 9. And then they would say, where does this come from? We would say, these are actually the ones that's been recommended by the most successful companies in your industry. Mm-hmm. So then the next phase came back to us and said, Julian, that's great. Thank you very much for the list of the 8 PSA companies. But which one should I really pick? Well, that's a whole different question. Yes. So after that question, we started to have to understand the DNA level. What type, what characteristics, what attributes of which VAR and MSP was the right fit for what tool. So at the end of this game, which took an enormous amount of energy, we built up to about 150 tools that were being used in various countries for various purposes and so on. And now we're able to recommend the right fit tool. So we took a big list and narrowed it down to a tool. So we think this tool is right for you based upon this, this, and this. And then we connect them with the vendor so they can do whatever they normally do to see a demo, double check, triple check. This is right before they engage. Now, the one last thing we did, which I thought was really great, and we used the Uber concept, which was after you have executed this tool, implemented this tool in your company, did it work, yes or no? So we simply would send them a note and says, can you rate this 1 through 5 stars? And 1 star meaning it didn't work, and 5 stars it was fantastic, right? And the ones who got more 5 stars became our favorite tools, basically. So that's how we sort of did the test and how we were able to monitor it. So the accuracy of that is pretty great. And now we are now able to very quickly make recommendations. So we're not involved in making these tools. So we really don't care who makes these tools or what these tools do. All we care about is making sure that if this partner needs a tool to run their business, that they're getting the right tool. And that's sort of where we started and where we left it. So that's how that program works. And for them to take advantage, they go to varofficesuite.com and they could click on the contact form and they simply check off the boxes of the tools that they're interested in. And then our team will kind of figure out who they are, what they do, that type of thing, and give them recommendations. And by the way, the recommendations are still free. So
that's hugely useful. I can imagine, just as you say, having a peer recommendation, best practice, again, it's very, very useful. Just moving on, I just want to know, in terms of your top tips for the channel, have you got sort of 3 main tips that you'd like to give companies today and help them? What would those be?
Well, I would guess the first tip is the same for me always, which is you got to know what you don't know about best business practices. And if you don't understand it, then you really need to find it out, right? Most people have a gut feel, but you need to figure it out. And yet there are ways to find out, even if you're a bit shy. You can join, for example, the mastermind group and Channelizer that we did and ask questions and just get to know what you don't know. The second thing is just fix one thing and measure the results. There's a saying, how do you eat an elephant if you ever were to eat an elephant, is, one bite at a time. And so you need to fix one problem and measure it and then do the next one. It sounds very simple, but that's you wouldn't believe how many people never get started because they don't do the first thing.
Yeah, good
And
advice.
the third thing is a little bit interesting, and that is, I don't know how true this is, but I've been told many times that you are the average of the 5 people that you hang out with the most, right? So if you hang out with 5 people, look around to those 5 people you hang out with the most, and that's your average. Now, you and I both know, I think it's common knowledge that if you are a tennis player or a golf player or whomever you are, you want to play with people that's better than you to improve your game.
Yeah.
So if everybody that you're playing with is really a bad tennis player, a bad golf player, you will not improve your business, your game, right? So you need to find at least 5 people that is doing something better than you, right? And that's how human beings learn. That's why every single professional athlete in the world literally have coaches. Because if you were that good, then you don't need a coach. Then why are you doing what you're doing? So you do need to get that help. So my suggestion there, and I have looked everywhere in the world to find what's the best way to improve the average of 5 people that I hang out with. Not to mention my friends are not funny and nice and interesting, but the mastermind groups is the only way. And by the way, this mastermind group, if you don't know what it is, Google it. It's actually been invented about 75, 80 years ago. And the concept is simple. When you put together in a room 8 people or so they went beyond 5 to 8, and you share your pain points and you have a discussion that's structured, chances are you'll find the answers. Right. And that's the power of a mastermind group. So, and by the way, almost every major successful entrepreneur, business owner, are in some level connected to some kind of a mastermind group, whether in private or public. So it's a secret, but it's not really a secret, if you know what I mean. So that's what I would suggest. Find a group of your peers. And that's why we created the VARmastermind.com group. That is, we will marry you up with another 8 like-minded people. But we added one level that we thought was important, because you put 8 people together in a room, and if they don't know what the hell they're doing, probably they're just going to end up drinking and having fun. So we added 6 coaches to the equation, and just to keep it real, so to speak. So that's the magic formula for us, and they can actually learn everything about it on VAR Office, VARcoach.com and VARmastermind.com.
Thank you very much, Julian. Some great insights there. So anyone who'd like to actually ask Julian a question, you can do so by joining Channelizer for free and then joining his unique mastermind group. The code is written up there on the screen for you, or just email us at info@channelizer.com for more information. Thank you very much for joining us. Goodbye.